Okay, we're just pressing record right now. I just got back from the beach and I actually tried to record this video down there, but it was a little too windy. So here we are. I have made it to my 90 days on carnivore. I am not having a great day. It has nothing to do with carnivore. I'm just a little down in the dumps. I missed my second go around, my second interview with Dr. Sam High. I was gonna have him on my channel. I tried to get the eCam software set up on my computer. My timing lapsed. I got it wrong. So I was kind of down in the dumps on myself about that. It's my day off. I take off every Wednesday for self-care because I'm a therapist and I need that. And I ended up spending the first quarter of my day off just kind of frustrated. So I tried to make up for that. I went to yoga, sweated out, stretched, tried to have a conversation with my husband. That didn't quite work out. And then I ended up taking my dog to the beach. So I am post beach afternoon with my dog, and I haven't even taken a moment to change my clothes, but here we are from the chest up. I'm just gonna have this conversation and record for the sake of accountability because I said that I would, and I like to do what I said I was gonna do. So I made it to my 90 days. That is a massive milestone. I can't say I've been waiting for this day for forever, but I really have been building up to this day, and I know it deserves some acknowledgement, and I know that I'm giving myself a pat on the back. And if you too have made it to your 90 days or you are working towards your 90 days on carnivore, I am over here rooting for you. I wanted to just give a really quick synopsis of what this last 90 days have been like. If you've followed me since the beginning, I have been posting since July 1st when I started. I was only posting to YouTube actually the first month because I was taking a break from Instagram just to kind of integrate and to re-identify, to redefine this new version of myself. And I just thought doing that off of social platforms other than something that I wasn't quite familiar with yet was the way to go. So I did that. And then I re-entered social media, or at least Instagram, at the end of August. I'm sorry, first of August, because this is October 1st. So anyway, reintegrated, and here we are today, 90 days in. It has been such a journey. The first 30 days was the honeymoon, just pure elation. I think after 4.5 strict years of veganism, that first taste of meat is, or just even because I was dabbling in omnivorous eating beforehand for about 3 weeks, it didn't work for me. It caused a lot of cravings. That first just devoted taste of meat, I should say, was light bulbs. So I spent the whole first month of carnivore just in the honeymoon. I was elated. I was joyous. I was ecstatic. I was all kinds of all over the map joy and committed. No less committed the second month. However, the second month I experienced my first oxalate clearing, and that's also when life threw some curveballs. We had to move, we lost our cat, I lost my wedding band, whole bunch of stress all at once. I experienced my first oxalate clearing. If you don't know what oxalate clearing is, you should definitely read Sally Norton's book, Toxic Superfoods. I keep it handy. It is a reference for me at this point. Because when that happened, I was devastated. I had a sciatic flare and I was immobilized for a good couple days. I drenched myself in research and ended up going to the store and getting some supplements, which I thought I wouldn't be taking as of starting carnivore, but it's false to assume that you're not going to need to buffer your body with some of this help going into it, especially if you have years and decades upon decades of eating high oxalate foods like I was. Dates, spinach, sweet potatoes, beets, beet greens, chocolate, almonds, star fruit, pineapple, the gamut. And I live in Hawaii, so I was eating all of these things in mass quantity. So oxalate clearing came, and I discovered a protocol to help my body flush those out, take that religiously. I still take it to this day. I'm not doubling up as I was in the beginning, but I take the calcium magnesium and potassium every single day once. In the beginning, I was doing it twice. And that saved my butt, literally, because it was a sciatic flare and I couldn't walk and it was debilitating pain. So just keep this in mind. If you have any indicators of oxalate clearing, and it's the list is so long, you really got to look at Sally Norton's book. It could be oxalate clearing as you go through carnivore, and if you think, man, I just really feel like junk, this diet's not working for me, what are people talking about? It's likely oxalate clearing. If it's not keto flu, it's likely oxalates. So remember, there's a protocol for that. Do that. I list it on my website. Rather than just kind of repeat it aloud here again, go to my website and check that out, therapeuticeating.com, and keep that really handy in your back pocket. So that was the second month. Got to our new house, mourn the loss of our cat, you know, whatever material things, didn't get my wedding, it's fine. But that was a big process in itself. That was a month in and of itself. And then the third month, which is what brings me up to where I'm at now, is getting comfortable in my body as it's changed. And the third month, I was really dabbling in things like fat fasting and sardine fasting. And that was kind of in an effort to kind of navigate to my own personal balance. And I was doing that until I decided to actually just track. And I was very resistant to tracking because I don't like anything that feels like I'm on a diet, even though carnivore is the most restrictive diet on the planet, most likely. It's also the most liberating. So I didn't feel like I was dieting when I started carnivore. And for me to start tracking, I feared that I would be in that kind of dieting mentality. But all of that shifted. And let me just preface this with, I started tracking because I was stumped as to why I didn't have a whole lot of energy. And after knowing it wasn't oxalate clearing and it wasn't keto flu, because I had addressed those things, I really had to look at what I was eating. And so I did look at what I was eating, and I was consuming a lot of fat, and I was doing a lot of I was doing mostly 2MAD. So I was kind of eating a heavy breakfast, and then I was so full throughout the day that I would like eat dinner somewhere in the early evening, 6, 7 o'clock at night. And then that would be my day. And then it would start over again. And I just could not figure out why I was so lethargic. I was sleeping well, you know, my mood was was stable and I felt positive, but I just couldn't muster the energy to go for long walks, to work out, to play with my kids, which is a really big one for me. And I started to feel frustrated. So I decided to track, one, because it's something that Kelly Hogan and Jenny Minich talk about quite frequently, not because Jenny specifically doesn't rely on it, but Kelly does bring it into her groups, mostly from a food addiction standpoint. And because I have my own personal history with eating disorder recovery, I thought it would be a good practice to implement and to bring some accountability into my life. So I started tracking, and I swear to you, light bulbs started to go off, because I think I established that I think we have this kind of like squirrely inner child who needs a little bit of discipline and accountability, and I was no different. And by assuming that I could just start this wild new venture off by intuition alone, I needed to rebuild trust in my body, and that's where tracking came in. So I started using Carb Manager, and I finally learned that as I set my calories to make sure that I'm supporting my metabolism, it's okay to go over your protein grams, which I didn't understand. I thought, oh my God, every single time I'm eating, I'm going over my protein grams. That's completely okay on Carb Manager, and that is something that Kelly Hogan explains. And man, I felt so liberated when I saw that, and I realized how much easier it was to plan out my day. So what I started to do with tracking was, I basically, either the morning of or even the night before, I laid out what I was going to eat, and I saw how it all kind of worked out on the diagram. And I thought, oh, wow, that's me eating 3 meals a day of all this delicious carnivore foods, from salmon to cod and sardines and ground beef and grass-fed burger patties and eggs and bacon and pork belly and all the things that I loved, and my coffee with ghee. I've been kind of foregoing the fatty latte, and and the heavy whipping cream in my coffee, and I've been doing ghee just to experiment. But anyway, I added all that into my carb manager app, and I saw myself feeling even nourished as I looked at my chart, and I was like, oh wow, this is such a relief. So I started doing that, and it's been a week, and I tell you, tracking for me was just a breath of fresh air. So if you're listening to this and you feel a bit, I don't know, I hate to say it, but like gaslit by people in the carnivore community who say that, you know, nobody in our ancestral lineage ever tracked, like that's unnatural for us to do. Just remember, it's 2025 and we live chaotic, stressful lives, and we drive cars and, you know, raise kids and deal with iPhones. Like, if you got to track, you got to track for your own sanity. Do not let anybody talk you out of it just because it's not found in nature. Like meat is. Like, we all go to Costco, you know, granted, I aspire to buy a full cow and have enough freezer space to do that, one little baby step at a time. Okay. So if tracking could work for you, don't hesitate to do it just because people are talking you out of it. And I would have talked myself out of it too. And I'm so glad that I started, because that is what brings me here to 90 days. Wow. So my body has fluctuated a little bit, not any huge scale, but I think because I have, I don't know, you could call it control, but just I have my eye on how things are changing, and I kind of have an eye on I really do have an eye on what's comfortable for me, and I don't want to go so overboard, like gain 30 pounds before I realize that this isn't where I want to be just to lose it. So there's a lot of stories like that of people sharing, and I think that that's beautiful if you have the patience for that. But for me, 5-10 pounds was enough for me to gain in order to really start to tweak some things. So I started out at 130. I had a lot of inflammation when I started carnivore. I dropped down to 124 very quickly, probably within the first 10 days. And then slowly but surely started to gain. And because I was also likely gaining muscle, my weight crept back up past the 130 mark and hit about 134. And that was at the point that I was like, all right. So even though I don't step, or at least at that point wasn't stepping on the scale every day, when I did step on the scale and I saw that that weight was more or less reflected in how my clothes were feeling, I thought this is a good place to kind of ring it in and do a little something different. So since I've started tracking, I went from 134 down to 131, and I have said this vulnerably and with conviction in the past, I take 2 pounds off for my breast implants because they each weigh a pound. So when I weigh so that actually comes out to 129. Regardless, I'm not so fixated on the numbers as much as I'm just trying to feel energized, because energy is optimism, and I like to ride my days out feeling positive and good. And even though today I'm having a bit of a low day, I get some disappointments and frustrations. You know, carnivore isn't a panacea. It doesn't resolve all of our life's woes. I'm not about to blame the diet for, causing a little bout of depression or sadness, right? Like I'm going to pull up my bootstraps and keep going. And in fact, I did some things today to really just take care of myself. And as low as I was feeling, because I was at a pretty low earlier, I called a girlfriend and she held me over the phone. I shed a few tears. I went to yoga. I stretched and I sweated out. I took my dog to the beach. I had a conversation with my husband. I made some carnivore ice cream as a little treat. I don't know if I'll have it tonight or tomorrow, but it looks delicious. And so stay tuned for that. I might go get my nails done. I'm going to upload this video. I got some vitamin D or some vitamin sunlight. Like there's always a solution, you know, when we're feeling low. So if this resonates, just remember that if you're having a down day, it's not because carnivore isn't working. It's because you're human and you live in a body, and it's frustrating to live life sometimes. But usually these kinds of days yield lots of great days to follow. So I think I covered all my bases. That is, I'm no matter what, I'm going to celebrate hitting 90 days because it is a major milestone. I'm very proud of myself. I have no intention of changing anything with regard to the food itself, whether or not, you know, I think I'll continue to track because it's very liberating for me. It just helps me to get the food off of my mind and my thoughts into everything else that I need to focus on. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a mom of 2. I'm a wife. I run a household. You know, I live in Hawaii. I have animals. I just have other things to do than to think about what I'm going to eat. So that's kind of where tracking comes in and why I think it's great for me. So I'll probably continue to do that, and I don't tinker with some new recipes. Tomorrow I'm going to put a rack of pork ribs in the slow cooker. Haven't done that yet. And just keep things as exciting as possible while also keeping my feet on the ground. So just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean that carnivore isn't working. I love something that Laura Spath said, was like, no matter what, if she stuck to carnivore, she maintained her primary goal. And I truly believe that if you stick to just doing what you said from a dietary standpoint, you'll be 1,000 times better off than if you deviated because you were upset about something. Carnivore ultimately does make things better, does make you feel better, but it's only through that consistency and commitment. Days like this, we don't have to go and score the internet for more and more solutions. Sometimes the solution is just kind of sitting through it and being nice to ourselves. If you're looking for a sign to be nice to yourself, here it is. So yeah, that's it for now. I do post what I eat in a days on my Instagram. I'm the most consistent with that. I try to make videos as I'm inspired. You know, what fuels me also is what you're curious about. So you let me know. All right, till next time.